Ladies and gentlemen, may I have your attention, please? The show starts in 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go.
Welcome, guys. This is D. Durrell with D. Durrell, the Sectors TV. I am also broadcasting from D. Durrell, the Rebirth, also from D. Durrell, the Life Solutions, and also for everybody that is watching me on the Black Balance Network with my brother BMT. Appreciate each and every one of you for coming in today. I'm broadcasting from multiple channels today because I am doing what we deem in the field of psychology or counseling. This is kind of a psychoeducational video on the pathology or the psychopathology of sexual deviance. Now, to give you a bit of a background on what has encouraged me to create this particular video is because throughout my experience being in YouTube, there has been a prevalent occurrence, whether it's through things that we found out in someone's real life via their criminal record, or the type of reckless verbiage that they express towards the opposite sex on social media, particularly in the Black manosphere, also in the church sector or the Umar pro-Black sector, and etc. Now, what I'm going to do today is give a reference to the reason why I have chose to do this video. Now, I have done videos in the past that I am going to reference, particularly when I talked about paraphilic behavior, particularly when I talked about that situation with Glenn Kendon, particularly when we talked about a lady by the name of Omega Courtney, particularly when it came to people such as Ramil Amir, particularly as it has related to situations of people thinking that it is okay for grown men to have sex with minors. Now, what kind of propelled me to create this brief presentation, I may say, is that a brother in the Umar Johnson sector, pro-Black sector, um, kindly expressed a situation in which he did not, in my opinion, show the best way of interacting with women. When he described the situation, many of the women were somewhat offended. Many of the women were turned off. Many of the women, particularly those that didn't like him, um, took it in a certain way. I'm not one to tell anybody how they're supposed to interpret a situation. But what I can say, in the verbal discourse between the sector, there was a lack of objectivity, even to the point of myself attempting to put on my therapist cap because of my interaction with him, which was at one time bad, and then we decided to bury the hatchet. No matter what I've stated, even from a clinical standpoint, was not necessarily heard based on the fact that I am looked upon in a certain manner. Okay, so what I'm going to do, guys, is reference a bit of what was stated as far as the difference between what is sexually predatory or what is sexually predatory, what's a sexual predator, what is a sex offender. Okay, now what I'm going to do at this point is go ahead and bring up my PowerPoint here. And again, guys, appreciate everybody that has come in today. Again, this is D. Durrell with the Sectors TV. Also broadcasting from D. Durrell The Rebirth and D. Durrell Life Solution. This is a psychoeducational video today that I have provided based on my clinical experience dealing with this type of population, based on my interaction with others on YouTube, particularly in various sectors, in which I've seen people in some way have a distorted view of sexually predatory behavior, what is appropriate, what is inappropriate, and so on. I would like to highlight to each and every one of you that I'm first going to give some statistical analysis. I'm also going to define sexual deviancy to a certain extent. I will give and discuss DSM-5 criteria. I will discuss treatment. I will discuss the differences, and I will discuss and give snippets of what is and what is not based on YouTube footage. Okay. Now, as I continue, I'm going to go ahead and give a shout out to people who are in here. Shout out to LV, my brother. Shout out to Surviving Life Hurdles. Appreciate you for coming in. What's up, None Squirrel Zone? What's going on? Appreciate the Quiet Assassin for coming in. What's up, Honest Engine? How you doing? Angela Smith. What's up, my boy? Recognized Game. Definitely loving your content. How you doing, Miss Angela Smith? What's up, Queen? And my queen here, the sexual intellectual, I definitely got to link up with you to do some content. And what's going on, Mr. Lewis Franklin? Okay, so we're going to go ahead and get this started as I describe what is and what is not sexually predatory and so on. So within this slide, you will understand that I, D. Durrell, am the presenter. Everyone in this sector knows that I am a psychotherapist. They know that I am a licensed professional counselor. Not only that, I am a business owner of clinics, and I am also certified or licensed as a domestic violence facilitator. And also, I am also in a what is called an LPHA in case management and in the behavioral services in the state of Texas. Also a QMHP that's also in line with that. Now, first and foremost, we're going to focus on the pathology of sexual deviance. Now, everything that I'm going to speak of will illustrate and highlight statistics and information to paint a clearer picture of the understanding of what that looks like, how it's presented, and even for the women who have and men who have been victimized or have experienced some level of this, and get a clear understanding of what you experienced. Okay. First and foremost, I want to talk about sexual predators. A sexual predator is a person who attempts to obtain or tries to obtain sexual contact with another person in a metaphorically predatory or abusive manner. Also, we must be cognizant as a sexual predator that includes the fact that a person is in a powerful position or the victim is in a compromising position. It also must include, in addition, the fact of age and maturity. If you are 21 years old and you're having sex with a 16-year-old, that is deemed as non-consensual and it's predatory. Yes, I do understand from state to state, they tell you that you can consent at as young as 14, 15, 16 years old based on the state. But in those laws, which is to me misinterpreted by people online, the kid that's 14, 15, 16 years old is not consenting to an adult. They're consenting to other kids who are at least 2 to 3 years older than them, not younger. It is also predatory that a 12-year-old cannot have sex with an 8-year-old or a 10-year-old. That is also deemed as predatory. Now, people can ask the question, what D. Durrell, as one person did in the sector, as one person asked about my qualifications, because I'm not necessarily licensed as a licensed substance sex offender treatment provider, which is a certification or a license per se, or a designation in the state of Texas. Although my license supersedes that, you have to be qualified in having the type of license that I have in order to obtain that certification, just as being a bid provider. So I want you all to understand that in my development as a therapist, my first internship was dealing with teenage sex offenders. My first internship was dealing with teenagers who are on probation, who are living in residential treatment homes based on the fact that they violated younger teenagers. The average age of kids that I saw, they were from all races and cultures, and they were from age 11 to 17. And I spent almost 3 to 6 months treating them under the tutelage of another provider. Shout out to Poetic Flacco. Shout out to Pillsbury Doughboy. Shout out to Narratives and Dialogue with Quafanino Abdominable, I guess. Yes. And I appreciate you for subscribing. Appreciate you for watching me last night. Okay. Now, also in my development as a therapist, I treated victims and predators who were involved in this type of behavior. So I want us to understand, what does this behavior look like? I'm going to tell you what this behavior look like. I want you to listen to this as we speak.
Even though it might be legal in that state for him to have sexual relationships.
Did anybody hear what he just said? A similar appetite.
See, he admits to ignoring it. You see, he admits that there were signs, and he admits to ignoring the signs. So how did she trick him?
Give me 1 second, guys. I want to make sure I get this and I do this effectively. It was used a lot for sex trafficking. Now, this is my brother BMT, the one that actually exposed the story. So I turned it up so it should be louder now. I turned it up so it should be a lot louder.
Right, it was before Craigslist was the...
Here we go.
Oh, wait a minute. Even though it might be legal in that state for him to have sexual relationships with a 16-year-old, 17-year-old, it is illegal to purchase and or sell them. I just want him to know what he's admitting. Right? Prostitution is still illegal. So his dumb ass, he's dumb as fuck. But go ahead. I'm sorry.
No. Whenever you say you want to pause it, and any of y'all want to say y'all want to pause, did anybody hear what he just said?
Sell them. I just want him to know what he's admitting. Right? Prostitution ships with a 6-pack. Eve.
Louder.
Right. It was before Craigslist was the...
Here we go.
Oh, wait a minute. Even though it might be legal in that state for him to have sexual relationships with a 16-year-old, 17-year-old. It is illegal to purchase and or sell them. I just want him to know what he's admitting. Right? Prostitution is still illegal. So his dumb ass, he's dumb as fuck. But go ahead. I'm sorry.
No. Because whenever you say you want to pause it, and any of y'all want to say y'all want to pause it to stop it, let me know. I will stop. Let's begin. Even though I have a similar appetite to R. Kelly, I like. Did anybody hear what he just said? A similar appetite. Even though I have a similar appetite. That was dumb. I'm just saying.
I apologize for the audio, it's a bit choppy, but what he stated was he has a particular appetite for young women. Young teenage girls. That's what he stated. I know it sounds a little choppy, but this grown ass 40-plus-year-old man basically stated that he has an appetite for younger girls.
Man, like, these people are feeling very emotive about stuff that they're saying. Y'all know what type of appetite are telling that. This is his words, not us. This is his words, not us. They were young. There would be lots of signs as a girl.
See, he admits to ignoring it. You see, he admits that there were signs, and he admits to ignoring the signs.
So I'm gonna go ahead and stop it there, because the sound is pretty bad. I did this video actually. I created this particular video about last October, and I didn't realize that the sound was just choppy. But what he was basically saying was were things that I'm going to describe as it relates to the behaviors. Now, he was very manipulative. He was stalkerish. What he participated in was molestation. He did fondle. He engaged in inappropriate relationship, and he targeted a young teenage female and her mother. Okay, so the behaviors that we're looking at, and these are the behaviors that were described that were, to me, some people were conflictual about, was the fact that the behaviors comprise of stalking, molestation, fondling. Also, we want to look at sexual deviant behaviors involve rape. It involves causing physical and emotional trauma in the act itself. In addition to violent tendencies, I misspelled violent there. That was a mistake there. Violent tendencies. People who engage in sexual deviance in many instances force or can aggressively control a person to do the act that they want them to do. Now, just as the person that we just heard for a few minutes, apologize for the sound, they show poor discernment as it relates to social situations that lead to the behavior. Sexual predators engage in gaslighting, and they can be very manipulative. Now, for those in the sector, in the Umar Johnson pro-black sector, as we're going to talk about this and relates to some of the issues that have been going on in the sector. For those in the manosphere, we can look at it in regards to people who think it is okay to engage in pedophilic-like behavior. Now, one of the situations that led me to speak about this is because I did not want to create a situation that just focused strictly on adults, but I also wanted to piggyback on the fact that there are adults who are also predatory, not just to women, but also to younger girls, to teenagers. I'm looking at it from a full scale, full realm per se, full realm. Very manipulative. These are the things that were up to discussion. These were the things that were up for critical thinking as it relates to those who were opposed to the behavior that was discussed by a particular YouTube, and those who felt like the situation itself did not yield this level of criticism. Now, I want to talk about the statistics about sexual deviant behavior. Oh, well, I have a bunch of, excuse me for the the spelling errors there. I got to use my spell checker. I kind of overlooked some things. Okay. Now, first we want to understand. Now, I'm going to talk about this because in the statistics itself, it features the fact that most situations involve a man imposing his will on a female. Now, I want us to understand that when it comes to males, 10%, over 25% of males who are victims of sexual assault are kids who are 10 years of age and younger. That is highly significant as it relates to the psychosocial development of young boys 10 years and younger who are becoming sexually confused, who are sexually unaware of what was going on, victimized, and they don't know how to release, and they don't know how to express the trauma that occurred. So sexual assault, number one, is the most prevalent crime in the United States, but the least reported. Again, sexual assault is the most prevalent crime in the United States and the least reported. Now, the reason why we have what people say, quote unquote, a rape culture is, number one, the victims, some victims don't realize that they are assaulted. Some victims don't realize that they are in an inappropriate situation. More importantly, those 14, 15, 16, 17-year-olds that think it's okay for them to have sex with adult males are not old enough to give consent. Yes, Carrie Ann. Again, as I stated, sexual assault is the most prevalent crime in the United States, but the least reported. Now, next, 90% of adult rape victims are female. 10% are male. Of the 10% that are male, 25% are young boys, 10%, 10 years of younger. So when the manosphere creates stupid and, to me, delusional statistics of why in the United States we have so many treatment centers that are geared towards females and only one or two to male as far as the ratio, is because you're not necessarily ascertaining the occurrences that contribute to that. It's a reason why we have 12, 13, 1,400 domestic violence treatment centers and only one or two male. Number one, the males who are being abused are not reporting, just like the women who are being assaulted are not reporting. So we have to take statistics into context. We have to understand there has to be a social need, and also, I hate to say it, an economic need for these services. 40% of women in the United States have encountered sexual violence. 25% of male victims are under 25 years of age. 70% of all of women who have experienced sexual assault, they commit suicide. $1.5 million women who are raped by an intimate partner in 2019. That means 1.5 million women 2-3 years ago. This is recent statistics. And as you all know, in order to gather statistics, it's going to take so many years to gather the statistics and so many years to finalize it before it's reported. One in 6 women are victims of attempted sexual assault. I gave this statistic because part of the reasons of why I created this video, because there was controversy on the fact of that was potential sexual assault. 1 in 5 Black women are survivors of rape. Where we're basically saying 20% of Black women are survivors of rape. 1 in 15 Black women who are raped report to the authorities. So that's like less than 5%. So that means the other 14 allowed a predator to get off, to only do this behavior to another person. See, in our community, this keep the white man out of my business, this notion of we're gonna keep this under the rug and keep this in the house. You see, what we're doing is we're participating in allowing predators to harm other people, not just women, but also males. We must be aware of this. I'm going to cite my sources at the end. Okay? I will cite the sources at the end, and you'll be able to get that. Okay? 1 in 15 Black women. Okay, I already stated that. Okay. The next one, number 10, the last one. 40 to 60% of Black women report being subjected to coercive sexual contact by the age of 18. Now, this is important. Now, what I did was I wanted to give national statistics that support our groups of women, coupled with the fact that I wanted to talk about the particular statistics that are relatable to the topic at hand and the victims at hand who are Black women. Okay? So I could quote an array of different statistics, but they're not necessarily relatable to the topic. So I want to keep it conducive to the topic at hand so that we don't go all over the place debating and discussing issues of the statistics itself. Okay? I just want to make that noted as we continue. All right. Now, I want you to take a look at the screen itself again. Sexual pathology, DSM-5 criteria. Now, I'm not going to go into detail with each pathology itself because I've already did a video talking about paraphilic disorders. I've done that already. I actually did a video on my D. Durrell the Rebirth channel that said pedophilic disorder in the Black community. I'm going to put that link in here so you can reference that, because I'm not going to go into detail with repeating that over again, because it's not necessarily totally relative to what we're going to discuss today. Okay, I just want to make sure we understand that. So the first thing in order that I'm just going to list those things. Okay, I'm going to list that voyeuristic disorders, exhibitionist disorder. I highlighted frotteuristic disorder because that is the only mental health illness in regards to the paraphilic disorders, which are sexually deviant disorders that are characterized by being pathological in nature, that relates to the issue of topic that led me to create this video that you all are seeing right now. Sexual masochism, okay? Sexual sadism disorder. Sexual sadism disorder and fetishistic disorder, for those who have fetishes. Now, when we're looking at this in summary, I want you to understand voyeuristic behavior deals with the fact that there's recurrent sexual arousal by observing others that don't know that you're observing them. Exhibitionism is in a situation in which it's recurrent in a sense of one exposing themselves, where people don't want you to expose yourself. Okay? When we're looking at frotteuristic disorder, I'm going to go more in detail with that, because it's going to talk about the issue of people being in public situations. I did not mispronounce sadism. What are you talking about? If I did, okay, I made a mistake. Okay. So as it relates to frotteurism or frotteuristic behavior or disorder, I want to talk about that because that's the only mental health disorder that closely remembers the situation in which this particular content creator discussed. All right, Carrie Ann, I get it. In which it closely involves what he did. Okay? Now, as I move further along, I'm going to kind of talk about frotteuristic disorder. And these are the two features that highlight the evidence of this behavior occurring. Number one, and for all of these different paraphilic disorders, we got to understand that it has to happen over a certain period of time. Okay, it has to happen over a 6-month time frame. This is not something because somebody felt somebody did something that it necessarily mean that they have a mental health diagnosis. Okay? It has to coincide with DSM criteria. Now, over a 6-month period, recurrent and intense sexual arousal from touching or rubbing against, and I want to highlight, a consenting person, as manifested through fantasy, urges, or behavior. Let me repeat that. So, example, someone is in an environment where they decide to touch someone and is triggered by the fact that they have urges, fantasies, or other behavior that contribute to them. For instance, somebody's in an elevator. They're around a group of people. Someone touches other people's body parts without consent. The clients that I have treated that had this particular illness usually engaged in behaviors where they were in large groups all the time, targeting people to touch. Going into malls where there were crowds, where people are walking and they have their hands out, bumping into people intentionally and touching them and grabbing them. Okay? Putting themselves in positions where they can have some type of contact and they're getting aroused by that contact. The next thing we're going to look at is acting on sexual urges with a non-consenting adult, okay? Or sexual urges or fantasies that cause significant distress or impairment. So what that's basically stating is that a person is so fixated on this behavior that it causes issues in which they can function in their environment. And in that environment, I mean, whether it's their family, at school, work, any community involvement that they have, these particular issues, this particular behavior hinders from in them in socializing with others. Someone mentioned what happens in public transportation. Yes. Okay. Any type of public situation, the person has recurring thoughts of how I can get away with touching somebody, being aroused, and getting away with it. In the situation that was talked about in the sector, this person's intentions was to have a continuous situation. It does not meet the criteria. It does not meet the criteria, but it's the closest that relates to what we're talking about. Now, I was going to mention the armed forces or the Army because over the last 10 to 15 years, there's a large percentage of sexual deviant behavior that occurs in the military. Now, I'm not going to talk about this in this particular video because it does not pertain to the topic at hand in regards to my purpose of creating the video in itself. Okay. Now, there's also two other things that we have to consider when we're talking about frauderistic behavior or frauderistic disorder, is the fact that whether or not it happens in a controlled setting. Because notice, as I began to talk about places in which it occurred, I'm talking about places where it's controlled. Then I'm going to speak on places in where it's not controlled. But we want to specify, that's why I'm saying specifications, that this primarily happens when an individual is in a living institution or a setting where the opportunities to touch and rub against a non-consenting person is restricted. So a person could also do this in a hospital, in a school, church, any structured environment. Okay? Now, guys, as I'm speaking, I know people are in the chat wanting to say from what I'm stating, please save those comments for the end so that because I'm trying to read, I'm making, read the presentation, explain, and I can't do both at the same time. And I don't want to feel like I am not, I don't want to feel like I can't concentrate and do both. So if you have a comment about what I stated, please leave it towards the end, the questions, and then I can answer those questions. Okay? Now, the next aspect of that is whether it's in a control setting or in a or if it's in full remission. Full remission means that the behavior did not occur within 5 years. The individual has not acted on the urges with a non-consenting person, and there has been no distress or impairment, social, occupational, or in other areas, as I talked about, for at least 5 years while in an uncontrolled setting. So what that basically means is that this person can, in full remission, a person has to be able to function just as anyone else within a normal range without the consideration of acting on those type of behaviors. Oh Lord, Carrie Ann, really, Carrie Ann? I am going to play the video. If you just let me do the presentation, guys. Just let me do the presentation. I am going to play. I got videos to play. If you just please be patient with me and let me do the presentation. Oh my God. Y'all killing me right now. Y'all killing me. Why is it showing like this? Okay. Now, I want to talk about the difference between a sex offender. I want to talk about the difference between a sex offender and a person who committed a sex offender and a sexual predator. Okay. Now I don't know why it's the screen is showing as it is. It didn't show things incomplete. I don't know what's going on with that. I want to show the difference. So we're going to talk about the difference between a sexual predator and a sex offender. Okay, because in this sector we can't conflate it against the two. I'm going to talk to you what's the difference. A sexual predator actually commits a first-degree felony, sexual crime, or a second-degree felony, sex crime. They're either an offender, they're convicted, or they're released from court with sanctions that occurred within 10 years. That's the definition. A sex offender involves a little bit more than that. Although it's a sexual predator can be a sex offender, but a sex offender itself has other behaviors that are not necessarily predatory in nature. That's the difference. Okay? And so when you look at a sex offender, it's someone who acts on prostitution with consent, indecent exposure, aggravated sexual assault, sexual acts involving minors, frequent violent sexual acts, and kidnapping and human trafficking. Okay, that's the difference. In the sector, we argued this. People were talking about the law. Now, I'm not quoting the law in Arizona. Okay, I thought, number one, I'm not a lawyer. I'm a therapist, per se. Okay, and I'm not going to get into the legal aspects of what the state of Arizona's laws were, because I'm not qualified to interpret and tell you what's legal and what's not legal. I'm going to do what's in the realm of my profession itself. And so we're talking about sexual predators. A sexual predator is someone that actually committed an offense against the law, first or second degree, and they've been convicted. They are sanctioned. They're on probation. They're on parole. They're required to do treatment in many of those situations when we talk about sanctions. They're put on sexual registries. A sex offender involves things like prostitution, exposure to others, aggravated sexual assault. These things have been done frequently. It also involves kidnapping and human trafficking. Okay? So that's the definition. Okay, so now what I'm going to do at this point, I'm going to now play the video. Okay, now the first video kind of coincided with what is a predator, because Glendon Cameron is a sexual predator. Now I'm going to play the video of what I feel is not.
But one of our friends came through that she has like a banging body, right? Her body's just banging, right? Yeah. And we go in the backyard and music's playing or whatever. And so I just wanted to throw like a little test. And so I walked behind her, right? And I kind of just brushed up like against her, like just to see her reaction, right? And she turned, like when I passed her, when I brushed up against her, when I passed her, she turned and looked at me and gave me that look like what just happened, right? And so in my mind, I was like, okay, step one complete. So she gave me a look and she didn't make a big deal about it. So let's move into phase two, right? And so, and also, it wasn't just her. She was the main one I really wanted to hook up with at the time. But there were a few others there that were like good option B, option C type of shit. just in case option A don't work out for you, boy. Yeah. Right. And so what I decided to do was, so I was, everybody's joking, everybody's laughing, right? Mm-hmm. And so don't forget, I did that brush thing to 3 of the women that were at this party. Mm. And all of them had the same reaction. They just looked at me like, what's up with you? Like, you know what I mean? And so phase 2 comes into play, right? Mm. And so what I did was, I would work my way around to where I'm sitting next to the woman, right? Plan A. Yeah. So I'm sitting next to plan A. And so we're laughing and we're talking, and then as we're laughing and talking, and I'm moving my hands, when my hands go down, I make sure I rest it on her thigh. Now, if she pushes my hand off of her, it's like, I'm not with that shit. Stay the fuck. It's a risky game. It's a risky game. I'm not with that shit. Stay the fuck away from me. You know what I mean? It is what it is, right? And so I put my hand down, right, and she did push my hand off, and I was like, "Oh damn, I'm dead!" Right? She's about to rat me out. I'm screwed. Here we go. but she didn't rat me out. She just pushed my hand away, like, warning, motherfucker. I don't play those games, right?
Yeah, like fall back.
Yeah, you better fall back. Oh yeah. Binary always doing these social experiments, man. What did Ross say? Yeah, Negro, you need informed consent.
Now, I want to stop here again as he described what he described. Okay? And I'm going to go back as we talked about sexual deviant behavior. Was the behavior stalking? Was it molestation? Was it fondling? Was it rape? Did he cause physical trauma? Was there violent tendencies? Now, I do think there was poor discernment in the social situation that led to the behavior. Was it gaslighting? Was it manipulative? I do agree. So the 10 things that I listed, the 2 that I think fall in line with what was discussed was the fact that there was poor discernment in social situations that led to the behavior. Also the fact that it was manipulative. Okay. Now, it talks about the fact that in the statistics, we stated that most women don't report. These women did not feel, according to the information that we have, Carrie, to the information that we have, that doesn't necessarily fit the narrative that a lot of people have. I'm not saying he was wrong in what he did. I'm not even going to say it wasn't predatory. But it was not, to me, deemed necessary for him to be charged with crimes and so on. Now, again, let's go back to the DSM criteria if we want to talk about pathology. This was not done according to what we know in a 6-month period of time. This was not recurrent, and it wasn't based on fantasy, and it did not cause any disruptions in his life. Okay? And that's what the DSM criteria would denote. Okay? So this is not pathological. Now, I'm going to continue with the remainder of the video.
Well, this was my way of getting informed consent. And obviously, she said no, so she pushed my hand away. She said no, and I thought I could have sworn she was going to, stop the music type shit. Stop the music.
He was trying to go with the flow.
Yeah, but she wasn't trying to go with no flow. But she didn't say stop the music, which was good, so she didn't blow up my spot. So I went to option B, and I did the same thing with option B, because it's a game of Russian roulette. Like when you finna get shot, you know what I'm saying? And so I went to option B, did the same thing. This is such a great time. Put my hand on her thigh, and she did not move it. And so I was like, okay. And like I put my hand there, right? I put my hand there. She didn't move it, but now I'm thinking, okay, does she realize what I'm doing, or does she think I just made a mistake? And so, we're laughing again. We go down. I put my hand there, right? I put my hand there, and this time I kind of move it like back and forth. You know what I mean? Like there's no denying what the fuck I'm trying to do, right? She did not say anything, and then it was boom. I put my hand on on her lower back this time. And now I'm going like this on her lower back. Did not stop me, right? Yeah. And I got up and went to option C, and recycle, repeat, rinse, recycle, repeat, rinse. I just did the same shit. And option C did not stop me from doing any of that, right? Did not stop me, right? And so now I have two options. Now, they didn't stop me. And all option A did, right, was push my hand away, right? Damn this. Option A is what I really want. I've already got option B and option C. Now, mind you, all three of them are my ex's friends. Damn. Yeah, don't forget that part of the story. Yeah, and so what I did, Mike, is
Now, let me stop here. Again, what he did could be deemed as predatory. What he did was manipulative. What he engaged in was inappropriate. What he engaged in, to me, was socially inappropriate. Okay? But as far as the other things that were listed, it does not involve what typically is done for people who are sexual predators. I mean, I'm trying to be objective. You don't have to agree. You can agree to disagree. I am being objective. Okay? So we have to take things into consideration of what occurred. What he did was wrong. Okay? I never stated it. What he did was wrong. I never stated that. But what I'm stating is I'm looking at the totality of the situation as it involves this man who, by the way, I agree, manipulated women. Okay? I never said he didn't do that. Okay? And he basically showed poor discernment in a social situation. And I'll say this, I'll do a third. Inappropriate touching, I'm not going to say it was against the will, but he did not get, I'm not going to say he got consent because he touched them without them saying that he could touch them. Okay, so I'll give that one. He touched the women without them giving him the go-ahead to do so. Now, I also want to touch on another thing in here because, see, there's another caveat that we must look at when we're looking at this. And the fact of the matter is that there's a level of hypervigilance as it relates to this topic because we cannot expect those who have been victimized to be objective. Okay? My heart goes out to those who have been victimized by some level of sexual predatory behavior. But people who have been victimized are not the most objective people when it comes to this issue, and nor should you. Okay? Nor should you. A person who's been, for those that have encountered some type of predatory behavior, some type of, let's say, incest, rape, sexual assault, physical assault, you're not going to look at this from the most objective standpoint. And it's just facts. And you must understand that the post-traumatic stress that one experiences from this type of event is real. And many times in therapy, when I'm dealing with victims, they can be, and it's part of their treatment. They're hypervigilant around men. They're hypervigilant around men that remind them of the person who violated them. They're thinking in such irrational behavior because they assume another person is going to do something that they didn't do. That's irrational behavior. There is hypervigilance for that. It is. Because you're thinking in an irrational manner when you assume somebody's going to do something to you, and there's no rational evidence to prove that. Now, that can be treated. Because one person did something to you doesn't mean, is it okay to want to protect yourself and take the proper precautions? Yes, sure. But that does not mean that the next person walking the street is going to do that same behavior to you. What you're going to do is put yourself in an anxiety-related state where you're constantly on edge, thinking that somebody's going to do something to you without having the rationale behind it. In many of the situations when I deal with people who are victims of predatory behavior, that's one of the most severe issues that we have to attempt to minimize. Now, when we talk about the treatment, yes, medication management should be considered, depending on your functionality, and also the fact that I implement what is called cognitive behavioral therapy. Cognitive behavioral therapy deals with these issues. It deals with your thought process, your thinking, your feeling, the behavior, the situations that stimulate those encounters, and how you function daily. And in that, I implement cognitive strategies to help you minimize that so that when you're in social situations, you don't get a panic attack or stress-related attack and where you're acting in a way that is not necessarily appropriate to the situation. Now, for those that don't want to listen to what I'm saying, that is your own prerogative. I know what I'm talking about. And I've been treating people with these issues for years. If you want to internalize your own issues, that's something you're going to have to work on with your therapist or whomever else that you're doing the work with. Resistance, I get resistance. I'm used to what's called resistance in a relationship. We're not in a therapeutic relationship. This is me doing this for psycho-educational reasons. And that is fine with me. You can believe whatever you want to believe. Okay? But my profession and what I do says different. So you can draw whatever conclusions you want. I have the receipts to do what I'm doing. I have the contracts. If you don't like what I'm saying, that's fine. But I understand for those that don't like and appreciate what I'm doing is based on your own internal issues that you have not healed from. And now you're projecting your feelings onto the three women that were interacting with binary. That's fine with me. You can believe whatever you want. It's fine. Okay? And so it is what it is, and that's fine. So I am going to open the panel. I am going to talk to you all, and everybody wants me to cite. They want my citations. They want to know where I got the information from, and I will show you where I got the information from. I just want to let you all know this. I don't have to cite anything. I don't have to cite anything. I really don't. But I'm going to do that because this is what you all want. So, I mean, I expected to get pushback because I'm being objective. And if you don't want to necessarily listen to that, that's your opinion. That this would be no different than me presenting this to anybody else in real life, giving this information. It would be no different. And I'm going to deal with things as such. So I am going to open up the panel. Okay. I am going to open up the panel, and then I'm going to have a cordial, respectful dialogue. If you don't give me a respectful dialogue, if you try to demonize me in my training, we're going to have problems. I'm going to let you know that right now. So if you come in here disrespectful, or you say things to try to act like I don't know what I'm doing, I will kick you off the panel. I just want you all to know, if you come and you try to say that I don't know what I'm talking about, or I don't have the experience, or I will kick you off the panel. Okay. I'm going to kick you off the panel. Okay. Because that's just not true. All right. So I'm going to go ahead and open up the stream. You can get the link. So for anybody that wants to come up, you can get the link and we can convene with this discussion. I do appreciate each and every one of you for coming in today. I appreciate you all for listening to me and so on. In regards to this discussion, and so on. Again, this is just me engaging in this presentation relatable to the topic at hand. I'm not saying the person's name and so forth because I'm not trying to highlight him, but there are other. I've done presentations like this before. Now, it's funny to me, when I did other presentations like this, I've done presentations on paraphilic behavior. I've done presentations on personality disorders. I've done presentations on bipolar disorder. I've done presentations on all types of mental health related issues. And this is the first time that I've ever gotten pushback on something that I'm an expert in. I have never received the pushback when I talked about the other issues. Matter of fact, nobody challenged or said anything or wanted to know. Now for this particular topic, now people want to second guess my expertise. I find that offensive, but I welcome it though. It's okay. If that's what you want to think, you're more than happy to think that. We can move forward. What's up, Miss T Pre? How you doing, Queen?
Hey, Darrell, how are you? Hey, the
Girl,
Oracle.
how you doing,
Hey,
sis?
Miss T Pre. Hey,
Hey, baby girl. I haven't talked to you in so long. How are
I
you?
know it's been a long time. We all been busy working or school or something.
I know. Yeah. Yeah. Darrell, I want to first start off by saying that I have the absolute utmost respect for you as a therapist, as a professional. I often reference a lot of information that you've put out.
Okay.
And I've even sent people that I know personally to your page in regards to information.
Okay.
So I want you to know that I don't in any way, I don't want you to feel like I'm giving you pushback regarding your profession. Okay. I
Okay.
also want to set the record straight in regards to two things.
Okay.
I particularly don't have a personal problem with binary code. Okay.
Okay.
I have disagreed with a lot of things with him in the past. I've disagreed with a lot of his behavior in the past, and I have found his behavior to be predatory in the past. Okay.
And so do I.
Okay.
I want to make note. I also think the same.
Okay. And I've also made that, I've been very open about that on my channel. I've been very open about that, even on his page with him, in other conversations and stuff like that. This isn't something that he doesn't know, but I also don't hate him or have a problem with him per se. When I hang up, from StreamYard and get off of YouTube, I'm not thinking about these people on here. You understand what I'm saying? So he doesn't have this profound effect on me where I need to have this extra amount of emotion towards him based off of something. Okay. So I also am looking at this from an objective standpoint. I've
Okay.
been able to look at this from listening to his own video. Okay. Also watching the cues, looking at his face while he's talking, while he's telling the story. Okay. And I listened to the entire portion of the story, at least what JJ was able to capture of the story. Okay.
Okay.
Put on his channel. So based off of what I heard, I actually came up with number 1, number 3, number 8, number 10, and possibly number 6. And Muslim actually put that in the chat.
Okay, hold on. Let me now. Okay, now say the ones that you're saying again. Give me the ones that you listed so I can make note. You said which ones again?
Okay. Number 1.
So you think he was stalking the women?
Yes, possibly.
Okay. Now what's the next
now
one?
this is just based off of the story he told.
Okay, go ahead. What else?
And I want to say this too, because there was a lot of stuff added. So it's possibly that I could be thinking that part of it. You understand what I'm trying to say?
Okay.
Because, that's just based off of what I heard him tell in the story. So in other words, I don't know, his relationship with these women based off of what he was telling us the first time he told the story. Okay. Originally. All right. Not after the fact, after he added that they were swingers, after he added all that stuff. I'm talking about originally telling the story. Okay. It sounds like he was displaying stalkish behavior. Okay.
Okay. So you think that was stalking behavior? I just want to clarify. Okay. Now what's the next one?
Number 3. Can you pull that up?
Yeah, I got it. Okay, go ahead.
Okay. Number 8.
Number 8?
Yes.
Okay. Look, you know what? I'm gonna go ahead and pull it up again. Give me 1 second. I'm gonna go ahead and pull it up.
Because you had several of them.
Yeah.
Okay, so go to the next.
You said number 1.
No, not
number
those.
3.
There was another page too. You had another page.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, this one here.
Okay, so that one. So number 8, which was the poor discernment in social situations that led to behavior.
Mm-hmm.
Number 10 was the manipulative behavior.
Okay.
And possibly number 6, which was causing physical or emotional trauma in the act. Now, the reason why some of us think number 6 was possible is because, again, you got to take into consideration the original telling of the story. Okay. Not everything he added after he got all the negative feedback. Okay. But the original telling of the story was these women gave him a certain look. They were not with it. Okay. They also pushed his hand off of him. And they also did a record scratching moment where they stopped and stopped the music kind of moment. Okay. So this could have possibly caused them some emotional trauma. We don't know that though. Okay. But it is possible in this situation based off of how he described their reactions. Because he did not describe their reactions as they were happy and go lucky and everybody was cool with it. He described exactly how they reacted. And how they reacted was they were not comfortable with this. So I think where the water is getting murky between everybody in the sector is everybody wants to argue whether or not lawfully he would be held responsible for this. Possibly he would and possibly he wouldn't. But I think that's irrelevant to the fact that he has, in fact, told us a story that shows, according to even your presentation, that he possibly could be a sexual deviant. And that's all we have been saying. Nobody's saying that they're holding him to the fire where they're calling, they're trying to get him in court for some acts or something like that.
That's not true. P. That's not true.
I was gonna say that if there is somebody.
People did say that.
Okay. Well, I'll say this.
Okay.
If there is someone who feels that they should report him, okay, because I also want you to go back to your statistics.
Okay.
Okay, because even though I would love for you to cite those
Yeah,
statistics.
I was going to cite them. I
understand. I get it. And I get it. But what I'm saying is, even though I would love for you to cite them, I do want you to go to them because those statistics tell a major, major part of this. Okay. Most rape victims or most sexual assault victims, okay, do not report. And it's for the reason of, it's because it is very difficult to prove this in the court of law. It's difficult to prove this to the police or anything. It's bad enough you can barely get a cop to even take a report on something like this, let alone get it through the court system.
But
okay?
I gotta say this. That was a statistic. I was going to show this one, but I didn't. It actually shows of the people who do report, there's a 95% conviction rate. The problem is there's not enough people reporting.
And also, most of the time, the reason why that statistic, let's keep it real, Darrell. The reason why that particular statistic is that way is because their situation was more than likely a situation where it was obvious that there was a rape or obvious that there was an assault, okay? So in a case like that, yeah, 95% of those would be convicted. But in a case where it's more difficult to prove, no. Most of the time, people are not going to the police because they can't report something that they can't prove.
Yeah, and that's what the statistic indicated.
And honestly, in a case like this with the binary situation, it would have been very difficult for those women to prove that because number one, I guarantee you to this day, all three of them had no idea that he was doing this to three different women in that room. You understand in that space? You understand what I'm saying? So how would they be able to prove something like that? That's why he hasn't been in court.
Okay, but again, we're taking out a caveat. One big caveat is the fact that we don't know exactly, outside of one for sure. See, for the way I'm looking at it, and I know this may not be what you're hearing, but there are people, I'm not saying it's you, and I've clinically seen this in real life, where when people are engaging and see things that remind them of their own trauma, they expect people to react to things the way in which they did, and it can uncover some other internal issues that you have, like or anybody else may have. Because my thing is this: if you felt based on an experience that, oh my God, this person went through something similar that I did, or an uncompromising position, it's natural for human beings to assume that that person is in some way experiencing or should respond in the manner in which you would have done so. Okay.
Well, that would absolutely make sense if that was like coming from a person like me, okay, who has been through something like that.
Yeah, and I'm not saying, and I'm not referencing you, but I am referencing.
I know you're not.
Yeah, I'm referencing the sector because I know for a fact there are women in multiple sectors, because I've been in different sectors, and I hear a lot of women in multiple sectors. Just like I just talked to you, over 40% of our women encounter some level of sexual assault. So 9 times out of 10, I'm going to say out of 10 women, at least 4 of those women have had some form of assault, sexual battery, or rape. The chances are high. That's an astoundingly high number. In this space on YouTube, a lot of those women and men come into social media, and they express themselves and they express their trauma in so many different ways. And in some instances, they express it in a way that's negative towards other people because they haven't necessarily dealt internally with their own issues. That's what I'm pointing out. And what I'm stating, that in the sector itself, there is some evidence of that. That is not being. I didn't want to talk about it because I didn't want to rub people the wrong way. But because I'm coming to you, particularly in this situation, forget the Godfather. This is just me being professional. Me giving psychoeducation.
Right.
I'm going to clinically say, listen, I've encountered situations where people are hypervigilant about certain social situations based on their own trauma. And that just doesn't go in regards to sexual being victims of sexualized deviancy and so forth. That goes with PTSD. That goes with bipolar disorder, other different disorders in which they've encountered certain things and they assume in those when somebody else when they're in similar situations that certain things are about to happen, and those are what I characterize as thinking errors. Those are irrational behaviors that have to be processed and restructured.
Can I speak to that point specifically?
Hold on, wait a minute. There are other people got to speak too. So I gotta let the Oracle and Mikey go. Then you can talk. I'm gonna give you your chance. Okay. And I'm gonna cite the sources. I got my sources. So let me go ahead to the Oracle and then Mike.
Hello, everybody on the panel. Thanks so much for having me up, D. Darrell.
Okay.
This is a very interesting topic. I really enjoyed it, but I wanted to say that I couldn't do the rating based on the idea that I'm late to the party. I did not see the full clip to make a calculated assessment of any type or a objective assessment of any type. However, from the mini clip of his verbiage of what I did gather from that was very, very telling to me. It let me know that at some point in that interaction with this young lady, I don't know, it was option 3 that he was referring to, that he tried one option, then the second option, he moved on to the third option. Let me ask you this before I go further. Did he mention that in the context of it being one person that he was doing the 1, 2, 3 options to, or was it the same person?
It was 3 different people.
Okay, so when he went from the first person, that was option 1, he tried her and he, seen there was some resistance there. So he went on to the next person. Did I get that right?
Yes.
Okay, so now on the third person, you have to think of the atmosphere, the situation. You have to include a whole lot of variables that took place on that evening. And some of that would be the setting itself. Naturally, when you're in a nightclub, there's a certain image that you want to portray. One of those images is being somebody of some type of importance, some type of some person that wants to be respected to some degree or whatnot, in a friendly, kosher, social manner. So with that being said, that I picked up a blend in an objective way. I picked up a blend that maybe this particular person that did not respond, that did not necessarily not give consent and didn't necessarily give consent, was either in one of 3 phases by the shock of what he was doing, or she was not trying to draw too much attention to herself, because the last thing you want to be in a nightclub is embarrassed. You will avoid that at all costs, even if you have to put up with something that you're not necessarily in agreement with, but you may be a victim of. So that led me to think that was she in one of those fight, flight, or freeze situations where you're not going to run out, you're not going to sock this guy, so you just freeze up, So that could have been one of those situations. So my thing is, it seems to me that more obvious than not, there's a little bit of transference toward you, Deidre. In my personal opinion, that's just me personally seeing
Transference based on what?
Transference of sometimes when people come at you, especially when you're trying to convey some certain objective conversation or whatnot, it could be some subliminal reflection of what they've went through, some trauma they went through that's arousing them to over exaggerate whatever they may see some issue of what you're trying to portray. That's just me personally. I could
As
be
far as
wrong.
the way I'm portraying things, or
Yeah, it seems like there was just a little bit of a getting off of the subject matter, just put it that way, and defocusing you somehow when you were trying to make your presentation.
yeah, I was reading. I usually don't do this, but for this situation, I was reading. I was reading the chat at the same time of me trying to explain things. That was a bit
Yeah,
frustrating.
and
So
that's
I
what I'm
kind of
thinking too.
didn't
It's like
express some things
that
in the manner that I wanted to, but that's okay. That's on me. I
that
I could have did
defocus
this
kind of took.
pre-recorded, but that's fine.
Yeah, and the problem with that is the defocus took you away from you being able to express your message in a clear, concise, streamlined fashion where people can actually get all of your context of what you're trying to say. So there may be some gaps there. So if I'm speaking in a gap texture, just know that flavor was given because of that. So please forgive me if I'm off base here.
It's okay.
But the main focus that I'm trying to draw you to is this thing called consent. So,
Okay.
consent has a couple of meanings, and consent is surely a sexual, how you say, not so much of an invitation, but a sexual allowance, if you will, that one person will convey in some way. It's not a communicative act. It's an actual act that someone will convey in some way, whether it be body language, words, verbal, physical movement, reflection of, doing what they're doing to them, or even more, whatever, just depends on how open they are in whatever consenting way they feel like. But that's just that person's way of saying, yeah, it's okay, you can have me, whether it be a guy or a girl, okay, or a man or a woman, or whatever context of a legal age is what I'm speaking of. So some people would say in certain states like what's that, Chicago is 17. We consider that underage here, but in 17 in Chicago is legal. We would say a guy or a girl in that context. But legal age may be 18 in California, and that would be considered grown here. So then in that case, we would say that person is grown. So I do have to add, with respect to those that have a legal age, that maybe some states would still consider a girl or a boy, okay, or a child or a minor. So with that being understood, if a person is expressing consent, and it has to be expressed in order for it to be consent, then that would be something that is allowed, and it will take into consideration her age. So
but we talking about adults. So that's the reason why I didn't go into that, because I wanted to strictly make it about talking about adults. So this is strictly adults.
Okay. So in the case of adults, then that goes without saying, yes, it is okay for a consenting person to give consent. However, if consent is absent, they do not have to express the word no for it to not be consent. That part. So if a person is being sexually advanced upon and they do not express that consent, that non-expression is the equivalent of just like saying the word no. So and then that person will have to understand that they didn't get that consent. So there's a gap between consent and what's consensual and what's not consensual, and the understanding of that, in my personal opinion. So I do apologize, I couldn't add more because of the fluency of the presentation, but yes. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so let's go to the next person. Let's see. That
was Mikey.
Mike. Yeah, what's up, Mike?
Before he speaks, though, can I because I wanted to get off the panel, Darrell. If I just wanted to say one more point, and then I'm going to get off. Okay, thank you, Mikey. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, don't worry about it.
Okay, all right. So based off of the information that you presented, okay,
Mm-hmm.
based off of everything that you have said and everything that's on this list, including the 5 points that I agreed with. You know, I felt that he did show, and you also, in some of those, felt that he was showing sexual deviant behavior. Okay. So this is what I think people were saying about him. And if people feel and should possibly have a heightened sense because of stuff like this, because of the fact that according to the
Yeah,
statistics.
but the
Hold on,
heightened
let me just
sense.
finish my point, Darrell. Let me just finish.
Okay, yeah, but I mean, we can, if you go into a heightened sense.
I'm not gonna go into any of that. Just let me
Okay, all right.
finish.
Okay, go ahead.
So according to the statistics, people are not reporting. Okay. So if people are noticing this type of behavior and we continue to not report, then the issue continues in our community. Okay. So at the end of the day, the bottom line is if there are people who feel, based off of his story and based off of these things, that he should be reported, I don't see anything wrong with that. I honestly don't. Because this is truly showing, according to this information, that this is in fact sexual deviant behavior. And that's all I got to say.
Okay.
Thanks, Darrell, for having me on the panel. Y'all have a good night.
All right, no problem. Okay. So I'm gonna cite 6 of my sources. Let me take this off because people are questioning where I got the info from. But go ahead, Mike. I'm gonna let you speak. Go ahead, brother.
But yeah, man, you know, like all I know is just like a snowball effect. You know what I mean? Like that's how I feel. You know, people took something and made it to something that, you know what I mean? We wasn't there type stuff. You know what I mean? And the 3 women, they're not here. You know what I mean? So, you know what I mean? And it's 2022, so who cares? You know? You know what I mean? That shit, real talk. But yeah, man, you know, if the 3 women that's not here, then we should not, you know, go so deep into something that, you know what I mean? We wasn't, you know what I mean? We wasn't really there.
Right.
You feel me? You know what I mean? If the three women was here, then okay, maybe it'd be a different story, maybe. But you know, they're not here right now. So, and they're grown people. So who wasn't doing some crazy shit when they was grown? Who was?
Yeah, but I get that, but we can't allow that to be an excuse for the behavior.
No.
What we can do is
no, it's not an excuse, but hey, it's his problem. You know what I mean? He got to deal with that at the end of the day. You know what I mean? And shit. At the end of the day, he got to deal with that, not the next person, or you know what I mean?
May I add something to that, Darrell?
Yes.
Yeah, see, this is some of the reason why victims do not come forward, you know, because people don't take it serious. People do feel that, you know, it's no big deal. You weren't harmed. He didn't actually take you and penetrate you. And, you know, it has to be full penetration against her will for it to be taken seriously, you know. And unfortunately, a lot of women have committed suicide because of this. And
I know that, and I made note of that.
I'm sorry. Yes, and so yeah,
I just said it. I made note of the occurrences of suicide and so forth. That was one of the statistics.
Yes.
Now, what I want to do, these are the sources. Okay. You can go look it up. Reputable sources. I use the National Center of Violence Against Women. Black women in the community. I use my own DSM-4. I use the website called donotpay.com. I use the NCBI. a website called the Law Center and WebMD. Those were my information. That's where my information came from. And I want to make sure we understand when it comes to the National Center of Violence Against Black Women, that the statistics that I quoted that related to that, strictly about, if you want to learn anything about what Black women are going through, that is probably one of the most reputable websites you can go to. The DSM, I'm not even debating that with anybody. That's my, that ain't even up for discussion for my concern. Now, do not pay. I actually also talked about things in regards to sex offenders versus sexual deviancy. The NCBI also gave statistics. The Law Center also talked about the legal issues in regards to felonies and things as far as trafficking, all those different things that comprise of sex offender related behavior. And then I use WebMD. So Carrie, you can take a look at those. If you got issues with what I stated, take a look at those 6 sources.
Okay, what's the tell me what the sex deviant is. What is that like?
What is what?
A sex deviant. Like what is that?
A sex deviant is someone that participates in sexual behavior that in some way causes trauma or harm to themselves or somebody else. It has to last at least a period of at least recurrent behavior that lasts over 6 months, in which it causes some level of emotional or psychological damage to themselves or somebody else. That's why, see, we got to understand, when we're talking about disorders and pathology causes harm to people. Okay? So when people have, see, I've done a video on paraphilic behaviors and sexual, but I didn't want to highlight this on that because the only DSM disorder that was closely linked to what this person did was fraudurism, frauduristic disorder. That was the only one that was the only disorder that to me would even come close. That would even come close to what they claimed by it. That was my thing, was that I was trying to explain things from a psychological perspective. Because my thing is this is what you got to understand. Let's say this person was prosecuted. If he has competent representation, they're going to make point of this stuff. I want you all to know, for those that claim I don't know what I'm doing, who do you think these people send their clients to when they're going to court to assess their mental stability? They go to me. I have to do assessments, and they have to do therapy. You know, I don't go to court as much as I used to, but you know what I used to, I'm gonna say between 2012 and 2017, I spent a lot of time going to court testifying based on clinical notes, assessment. And if my clinical notes and assessment shows that someone is a predator or they have a pathology, 9 times out of 10, they're going to be convicted. If it doesn't, 9 times out of 10, they're not going to be convicted.
Yeah.
And that's
from my
just
point of view. No, yeah, because from my point of view, I took it as, and I'm just going to leave it at that. I took it as the story as like, okay, you know, he was in his 20s doing fuck shit. You know what I mean? Who's telling, you know, the world. You know, like some people will tell their, you know, stories like, yeah, you know, I murdered this person. You could find the paperwork online. Whatever's the case. You know, if you want to feel like if you could look it up. You know, and then, you know what I mean?
I want to touch something. And see, this is a problem in our community. We're not understanding mental health. Now, Josephine, I get the rationale of what you're saying. If I was a sexually abused person, I would seek a woman who has a strong understanding of what I experienced. Just because another woman is a woman does not necessarily mean she's going to have a strong understanding of what you went through. Because there are women who are empathetic and would not relate and understand, even if they experience the same thing. And then you would run in the case of, which we talk about as therapists, if you have certain trauma or you have mental illness or some other issues, you would run the risk of engaging with people healing yourself instead of healing your client. Now, in many cases, particularly with sexual assault, rape, and so forth, even for myself, depending on the situation, when I'm referred clients who have just recently been raped, particularly adult women, I usually refer them to competent female practitioners, because I do understand in the initial phases of that, you're going to have a certain level of anxiety and hypervigilance around being around men. And I usually don't treat women who have those type of issues unless they've been at least 6 months to a year or so after the initial adverse situation occurred, because I understand the nature of a person who went through that, not being a victim per se, but the fact that from a research standpoint, psychological standpoint, you're going to be fearful of men. You're going to be fearful of being in men in a private situation, being alone with a man, and so forth. Hearing the voice, there's all types of things, auditory and physically, that can trigger anxiety based on that trauma that you experienced in that assault or rape or whatever else that occurred. So I understand that. Just because I refer out unless I've known a person who tried other therapists that didn't work out, or they requested a male. If that person said, I want to see a black male, or it doesn't matter, then I will be inclined to see them. But if, let's say that happened and then you trying to see me next month, no, I'm referring you to a female that I think would be more comfortable based on my experience of understanding how difficult it would be for you to disclose information that another man did to you in your private life. So so I get the rationale for that, but also we got to understand clinically, like, particularly in our community, because we don't like going to therapy at all, period, particularly the men. So that's, or Josephine, she's saying, let me look around, didn't I just, but I don't know what she, okay. All right. But anyway, I get the rationale behind that. But what I would say is, seek a competent female therapist, not just just for the sake of her being a therapist in that area, because then that wouldn't do you any good. But go ahead. T-Pre, you wanted to say something, so you came back up.
Yeah, thank you for letting me back up again. One quick thing I wanted to say, which is I'm really glad that you brought up a point. You said that you actually treat people and who have been through situations like this.
Yes.
You also said that there has to be a period of about 6 months or so of
For me,
observing of this behavior, right? So,
yeah, that's what I would do. Yeah.
Oh, okay. So here's my thing, okay? And I think this is where the waters get murky between the sector and what people think of this situation with binary and your assessment of this situation, okay?
Mm-hmm.
The fact that you have not been able to assess this situation with him for a 6-month period, you're only making your assessment on this situation based off of one story that he's telling.
What do you mean? Wait a minute. Hold on, T-Pre. Hold on. Wait a minute.
I don't mean assessment professionally.
Hold on, T-Pre. Slow down, sister. Let's piggyback on that again. Now, you said that based on me not assessing. What do you mean by that?
So we're all assessing the situation. None of us are making a professional assessment. Okay. But what I mean is, I think people are believing that you are making a professional assessment.
No,
I
I'm
don't
not.
believe that.
No, I'm
I
not.
don't. Hold on, let me finish. Let me finish.
My purpose
I don't
is
believe
that my purpose of doing this is to give psychoeducation around what occurred, and based for me looking at it, what I would look at in the midst of
Right.
what we call sexually deviant or predatory behavior. Now,
Exactly.
if I was treating binary, it'd be totally different. I'd be using different assessments and so forth, and I'll be taking I'll be asking questions that I'm not going to do, because then that would put me at risk as if I'm doing some level of treatment. So that's a bunch of things that I have not discussed that I would discuss if he was my client per se.
Right. So that's my point, okay? Because what you're saying is, what you keep telling us that you agree with the points that these are in fact could be deemed as sexual deviant behaviors, okay? But then you go back to, but the sector is wrong about saying this about him.
Yes, because the sector.
Hold on, let me finish, Terrell. Let me finish.
Okay, because you're saying a lot that I didn't say.
You understand what I'm trying to say. If you
okay,
stop
cutting
me off, you'll understand. Okay, so you say to us that you agree to these points, but then you turn around and say you agree that some of these behaviors can be deemed as sexual deviancy, okay? But then you'll say the sector is wrong for calling him a possible sexual deviant. And then you'll say, because I'm assessing this based off of this behavior and what I would do in a clinical setting. And what I'm trying to tell you is that is why people keep murking that together, because it sounds like you are, even though I know you're not, I'm not saying you are, okay? But it sounds like you are, because you're making an assessment based off of this one story and comparing that to clinical assessments of this.
No, I didn't give a clinical anything. I never gave a. No, I did not. I never. No,
you're not doing that.
I know you're not doing that. No, but hold on. Let me speak, sister. Let me speak. Let me kind of piggyback on this. What I did was I gave meaning of what this means. I gave examples of what those groups of behaviors look like. I gave DSM, because since we're talking about criteria, I have to use the DSM because that's where pathology is assessed and measured. It didn't mean that I measured it, or diagnosed them. What I didn't. What I did was I pointed out if there was a situation that occurred, the only diagnoses that would be anything related to this was frauderism, that frauderistic disorder that I pointed out. The others would not meet the criteria per se, and even in that situation, he didn't meet the criteria. Even if that was the case, but what I'm stating is I provided the information as a point of rep. This is psychoeducational. This is not me giving clinical.
Sounds a lot like we're confusing the word assessment with analysis.
Yeah, I think I'm using the wrong word, because
so what I'm doing is giving psychoeducation.
I'm aware of that, Darrell, and I'm not saying
in psychoeducation, what you're doing is you're educating and you're being informative and you're giving information. If people want to look at things, like I stated, if you look at the highlight in my video, I stated this is not to be misconstrued as therapy or any other mental health service. If you have questions about what I said, please consult a mental health provider. Okay, right. I stated that in the comment. I mean, in the information section of the video before you would click on it. Stated it. I did it for a reason, because I anticipated this. I didn't think it was going to be at this. I didn't think it was going to be at the level, but I knew I was going to get some pushback what I stated and what I was giving, because I knew that people were looking for me to say something that fit what they were thinking, and that's not. When I'm giving education, that's not my goal. My goal is to give the information whatever way you want to perceive the information, that's up to you.
Well,
but
you and I agree
I
on
do,
the information.
huh?
That's the thing I'm trying. That's the point I'm trying to make, Darrell. You and I think everybody else in the comment section agree on the information. That's why I don't understand why you are giving the pushback, because
So I'm not giving pushback.
Your
No,
information.
people telling me I
literally,
didn't know what I'm
honestly.
talking about. They had people telling me I need to see the sources. Then I had people telling me you ain't a real therapist. So what's
Well, Darrell, you gotta ignore the haters. You got haters, okay?
No,
like,
but I'm just saying, like I'm
at
just
the end
saying
of the day,
that
I'm not hating on you. I'm just literally asking you from
I'm just expressing the
know?
nature. I'm just expressing the nature of the show. But what I will say is this, T-Free, that there were behaviors that I think in that 10, I only listed 10 things, okay?
Right.
There are other things I could have listed. I'm summarizing, okay? I could have mentioned other things that could just looking at this in full scale. Now, I list about 3 things that I think could have been, but you gotta look at it like this, and this is the other aspect of it that people are not looking at. Okay, let's just say when you talked about, like, I think it was like 4 or 5 things that we're talking about stalking and all these other different things, right? So then you're gonna have to go and prove that. Okay.
See, that's the point, Darrell. Like that's the point. That's the problem here. That right there is where everybody's getting murky. We don't have to prove anything because we're not taking him to court. You
okay. So then my thing is that you're right. You don't have to prove anything. So I provided information. I provided information, and then you could take it into whatever way that you want. What I'm gonna say is this: just as the Speakeasy said. The Speakeasy said, I don't think Binary is a predator, but I do think the behavior that he did was predatory in nature. And I think the same. I think that, and then there's another thing that we got to also look at. But we don't have the information. It's the recurrentness of it. Did Binary recurrently do this over a period of time? We don't know that.
We don't
know that.
But we don't care.
Huh?
That's the point. I don't think we care whether he
I do care. I care about that.
Well, the reason why I don't particularly care, this is why I'm saying
I care about that, because my thing is that if he did, that means he harmed other women. And I care about that. That's what I meant.
That's why I said that, if that's what I mean. So in this case, okay, if people feel that this is to the level that they feel this type of behavior should be reported, then they should go ahead and do that and allow the reports or the investigators to do their job in that matter. Because the people that came to you after they came to you for behavior treatment, they were reported by somebody, okay? Somebody reported them. And at some point, they came to you for that treatment. So you didn't just come out of the sky and start treating them and knew that they were doing this for 6 months. No, somebody reported that person. Okay. So if you feel that this is to the level that you are comfortable reporting this situation, then people should not be gaslit for that. For the simple fact that we are all in agreement that this behavior can be deemed as predatory.
Okay. But just because it can be deemed as predatory does not mean that he's a bona fide. That's why. Hold on. Listen to me. Listen to me. Listen to me. Hold on. That's why. Listen. In the presentation, I gave. Hold on, Mike. I gave it in the presentation, and that's why I defined the difference between a sexual predator and a person who's a sex offender, because the lines draw into each other. Because you can be a sex offender without being a sexual predator. All sex offenders are not sexual predators, and that's why I defined it as such, so that we could understand that.
But either way, like you had, for instance, you had kidnapping on the list with sexual offender. Okay.
Yes, that's predatory.
Those should be reported as well. So
Yes.
it doesn't matter the wording you use. You understand
No,
what I'm saying?
it does matter the word that
Okay.
you use.
So
It
I
does.
shouldn't report a sex
No,
offender? Is
no,
what you're saying?
because we also talked about prostitution, and it also talked
That's the
about
levels of sex offense. But you said we're talking about overall sex offense. Are you telling me that because somebody's a sexual offender, they shouldn't be reported? Is that what you're saying?
I never said that. Did you hear me say
then.
that?
So reporting is
No,
reporting.
but no. That's not what I stated. Again, I'm going to go back. Again,
Shoot, for all
we're
that,
talking about we're talking about acts of prostitution. And understand, when I stated, I said it was consensual, because prostitutes get sexually offended also. They get raped, they get assaulted. Okay. Then it also talked about kidnapping. It talked about, human trafficking. It talked about aggravated sexual assault and so forth.
Exactly.
So
that's levels.
my thing is that when you look at it, it can be predatory in nature. If that's what you want to lead to, okay, I can.
So if that's the case,
but there is a difference. There is some difference.
Oh yeah, there's big differences, but they can all be reported.
Yeah, everything should be reported. The problem is that was but see, T-Pre, the thing that I wanted to make high note the most is that in our community, 1 out of 15 women are reporting. We have to change that culture.
Okay, that's what we're trying to say.
Because this is why I'm stating that, because that means that we're letting, for every 15 women, 1 report. That means we let 14 predators have the opportunity to prey on other Black women.
Exactly.
That's a problem. I can't. That's a problem.
We should not be gaslighting one another for reporting.
No, we shouldn't.
Okay. Well, I think our argument is done.
No, but for reporting for this situation, the thing about it, this happened 19 years ago, and the fact of the matter is that
that's irrelevant, Darrell.
Huh?
No,
it's not irrelevant, because according to the law, there's a statute of limitation.
Yeah, I was just going to ask that.
Again, that's why when I get what you're saying. That's why I'm taking out. I'm being objective. I'm looking at it from both sides. I'm only telling you in a professional setting what I've seen and what I've had to say in situations.
But you know what's funny?
Also being on the stand.
But look, you know what's
go ahead,
funny?
Mike. Go ahead.
You know what's funny? Where are the 3 women now? That
that's
everybody's
to any of us, because
that's everybody arguing about.
And at the end of the day, he told us this story. It's not like we brought this up. He told the story. Yeah. So it doesn't matter where the women are.
Have anybody considered that this joker might be lying just to,
I think that would be worse.
It's just locker room talk if he's lying, But if he's telling the truth, then that's different.
Nah, but let's say if
he was lying.
Look, let's say you could roll the dice. Let's say it's both, right? That means people took it as like, okay, let's fish for the story and let's make it more seem what it is. You know what I mean?
No, that's how I see it. Told the story. That's just that. Bottom line. I haven't heard anybody embellish the story.
No, I understand that, but
he could be lying. JJ,
he could be lying for all I know.
I don't know. It wasn't embellishing, but he edited.
No, he didn't.
But that's all we have.
The story. That was the story he told.
No, I know. But let's say it could be both. You know what I mean? That happened.
No, I'm not going to play the mental games. He told the story.
It's not the mental game. It's not a mental.
I'm not saying you're playing a mental game. What I'm saying is let's just cut the semantics. He told the story. Bottom line.
Okay, so how did you feel? So
it's like we're arguing over his words. He said the words.
That's true.
So Carrie Ann, if you want to come up, Carrie Ann, if you want to come up, why don't you come up? I couldn't let you speak in front of other people that were waiting longer than you. So if you want to come up and give your opinion of things, you're free to do it. I'm up. I don't mind with criticism. Everybody, I deal with criticism every day, so that's not an issue. So if you want to come up and say what you feel, I mean, I'm up for it. I mean, if you didn't like it, just say you don't like it. I'm fine with that.
So is
I
everybody
mean,
looking
if you
to
felt
you
that I
for
could
a
have went into
resolve?
detail, if you felt that I should have went into detail of some other areas, or I could have did this or that, that's fine. I mean, I just want you to keep in mind this I'm not getting paid for this, and this is prioritized as such. You know, this is not work. So
No,
this
for
is
all
You
only
did
that.
an
me giving
excellent
a
job, Darrell. I
summarized.
appreciate the show. I
Yeah,
think you did a
this is
great job.
me. This is
It's a
me
good
giving
show.
a summarized situation of what occurred. Because if I would have done a real situation as if I approach it as if I'm getting paid for it, as real life, this would have been a 3 to 4 hour live stream of me discussing and analyzing this. I'm just gonna be honest. This would be I would be spending 3 hours talking about this. I would be highlighting things. I would be reviewing records.
And
I'd be
plus, and
it
you
would
know,
be
and you
it
know
would be
what's
all
funny
kinds
too?
of stuff that would bore you all in a sense that you know so
Like,
this is only a summarized situation to fit that situation.
like you know what's funny too? There's no actual paperwork.
Well, Shakim, if you got something to say, brother, you can say what you feel, brother. You can come up. You don't have to say it in the chat. If you want to come up and give your critique, you're happy to do so. I'm good. I mean, so my thing is that I gave the information based on what I felt was important. I gave the statistics that I thought were relevant to the situation. And more importantly for me, what I wanted to highlight is the fact that, you know, when sexual assault is the most prevalent crime in the United States and the least reported, you know what I'm saying? That's a problem. That means we're letting a lot of criminals roam rampant and continue to do what they're doing.
Exactly.
And that's why our community is in the position that it's in now, because there are people that are, you know, imposing their will on people and screwing them up psychologically.
But we got to talk about the pimps too.
Yeah.
We cannot we cannot exclude the pimps. The pimps is way worse than what the binary did. I'd rather go after a pimp than what some guy did 20 years ago.
I mean, I'm about going and targeting everybody that did something wrong. Yeah. I mean, but we got to understand, we have to look at the confines of the law.
Okay.
You know, we have to look at the because the thing about it, the law is going to be what will determine at the end of the day if somebody is guilty or not. So,
you know what I mean? Like,
let me ask you this. Hang on, Mikey. Let me ask you this, D. Darrell. Is everybody that have any type of argument against your analysis of the situation and they're arguing, are they looking, my question would be to them, are they looking to you to get a resolve, call the authorities, or what resolve are they trying to get from you?
I have no idea. I mean, if you want me to just straight up say he's a psychopath or something like that, or he's a sexual, or that he did something, no, because that's slander. I'm not saying that because it's slanderous.
No, facts.
For me, it's slanderous, and me being with the profession I'm in, that could be looked on as far as slanderous, and it also can be unethical.
Like, real talk, like, you know,
that's why. So when people are wondering why I'm doing certain things in a certain way, I'm also protecting my own ass. You do know this sector called boards. This sector do call boards on people and all kind of other crazy shit. So don't think I'm not keeping that in mind.
Right, but Darrell, like, nobody's expecting any type of expectation of a response from you. Like, nobody's saying that you have to say. The only reason that you have gotten any pushback on this is because you jumped kind of out the window saying, like, caping for him and saying that he's not one.
No, in my opinion, I don't. I still don't think he is. I don't. Based on this, do I think
I'm not saying, okay. But
Again,
what you are agreeing to is that it is in fact predatory behavior
in nature, yes.
So that's the semantic words. You understand? People are predatory. I don't understand what the difference is.
The
Okay,
difference is in nature
so can you?
because the level of what he did and the
All right.
response per his story to me was not in a situation in which I felt as some people think. That's all I'm gonna say about it. I'm not going any further than it.
I agree because I would say this much. If I was to analyze the situation, I absolutely believe the behavior was predatory in nature, okay? Which
Okay.
could lead some to believe that he is a predator, which would also which would lead people to report that type of behavior, okay? Now, what I also believe is I wouldn't report him. I personally would not call. But if other people did, I would understand why and I would respect it because this is what we do need. We need more heightened sensitivity to things like this in our community if obviously we have statistics like this, like 1 in 15 people are reporting such behavior. This is why we have predators running around in our community and nobody
Right.
is doing anything about it. And we're
Right.
so afraid to report because we're afraid of messing up somebody's life, quote unquote.
And
When in
let's bring
actuality, we could be messing up 14 other lives. You understand what I'm saying? If we don't report. So
and putting this into context, I want us to understand that, and I'm gonna go to Pillsbury. Of those 14 people, or let's say the 1 out of 15, I guarantee you over half, I'm gonna say 75 to 80% of that was done by a family member. And that's one of the reasons why it doesn't get reported. Because in the Black community, we allow this to happen and keep family secrets.
absolutely. Absolutely, Darrell.
I'm talking grandparents, father,
So factual.
uncle, cousin,
Mothers, mothers,
we don't want that family member to be held accountable.
yeah,
And
aunties,
that's just and to me that's problematic in our community. But let me go to Pillsbury.
Yes, sir.
What's up, big dog? You can hear me?
Yeah, brother. What's up?
What's going on? I want to salute everybody that's on the panel. First thing I want to say is I'm disappointed that Carrie Ann and Shaquem Rod didn't hit the link, but we love y'all anyway. Hey, that's what I want to say. Last time I was on the panel, man, I know it looked like I was just taking up for binary and everything. Now, this is what I was trying to say. What I was trying to say was that since the fact that we only had one story from binary, it's not enough evidence for somebody to just say, oh, he's a sexual predator, or even in fact that he's not a sexual predator, because all I'm saying is for some people that was already claiming it, it's not enough evidence to say it. So I'm not saying he is or he ain't, but I'm damn near not gonna agree with the person that say that he is, you know what I'm saying? Because it's not enough evidence. I smoke weed. I could be smoking a blunt at the job. If one of my coworkers that really don't smoke weed may come out hit the blunt one time, does that make them a weed smoker? No, it don't make them. Look. I'm just stating facts right now. Real talk though. You come out hit the blunt one time. You know what I'm saying? That don't make if you go to the bar and get a drink, you know what I'm saying? Does that make you an alcoholic? You know what I'm saying? I mean, we just now it's not when you want to say, okay, it's predatory like behavior. Okay, I mean, okay, cool. But all I'm saying is we need more evidence for somebody to say, oh, he's a sexual predator. You know what I'm saying?
That's been part of the problem in our community is that we've always needed more evidence in order to report. And this is why, because most of the time when somebody is being sexually assaulted, nobody else is aware of it. You understand? So how difficult is it for that person who's already shocked, already in trauma from that abuse, okay, to come out and report it? And then we've got people who are giving them pushback like this. People are always saying, well, I need more proof of that. I need more evidence of that. You understand? Why do we need more evidence when somebody is telling you they have been sexually assaulted? That is a question that we need to start asking ourselves.
I can answer that question for you. I can answer that question. You know why they say they want more proof? because it's difficult for them to believe that that person that they're related to did what they did, and they don't want to come to terms with the truth. That's the reason.
Exactly.
And that has
Or
to
even
change.
their friend.
Yeah.
Or even their friend. It's difficult for you to believe that somebody that you like would even do something like so horrible like that. You understand
And
what I'm saying?
we have to be open.
Exactly.
To understanding.
We have to let the authorities do their job and do the
Yeah, because what's
investigating.
gonna happen? All that's gonna happen is y'all gonna report it. He's gonna say, "I was just lying, just gaslighting. This is locker room talk." That's it. He's gonna deny it, and then
That's
who's
irrelevant of what happens after the fact, though. At the end of the day,
But
we
let me
need
ask
to
you
do
this:
our part.
who's going to rebut it?
Who's gonna what?
Who's gonna refute it? Who's gonna rebut it?
Okay,
what if he
so
goes up in there and says, "This YouTube, I was just faking up a story just for content. I was lying." And then who's going to rebut? Say, "No, you was telling truth." How would you prove he was telling truth if he's going to go in there and say he was lying just for you?
That's the point I'm trying to make, Oracle. That's the point I'm trying to make. It is not our responsibility to figure all that out. If we want to report a situation because we feel like something is happening, that could possibly save somebody's life. All this thinking about who's going to rebut, who's going to come back, who's going to throw it out, who's going to deny it. Let the authorities do
that's
their
good
job.
in theory, but when you're in a court of law, and I practice law
I'm
now,
not in the court of law.
We're not in the court of law now. I am learning law now, so I get.
Yeah, but we're not in the court of law in this situation. That's what I'm trying to say.
In the court of law, what they're gonna do is look for the victim and solid evidence to back up her claim. So what would need to happen is that victim would need to come forward on her own recognizance. She has to be a willing person to want to make that filing.
Yeah, that is true.
We can't file for her.
Exactly.
Even if we believe what he
figure all that out.
Well, it's not the same for children.
I mean, you can make a claim. You got every right, your civic duty to do that. You can make that claim. So let us know how that claim go. I want to hear that.
No, I don't, because I'm not reporting anybody. But I'm also not. I never said I was reporting him. No,
I didn't. Something?
You definitely did, because I never said that.
Say?
I said I'm not reporting him. I am
one
that won't report him. What do I need to report him for?
You just said a real good case. Let me finish. You should. I think you should.
I shouldn't.
I'm like,
I'm gonna tell you why I shouldn't.
People need to be.
I'm gonna tell you why I shouldn't report him. I can tell you best why I shouldn't. Okay. The reason why I shouldn't report him is because I don't feel like he is necessarily a predator. I do feel like he has some predatory behavior. What I also feel like, and what I said,
I don't understand the argument.
What I also feel like, exactly, I don't know why we're having an argument either. But what I said was, if other people feel like they need to report him based off of the fact that we all agree that this is in fact,
I wasn't saying they shouldn't report him. I'm just letting you know what the courts are going to do.
Well, we know what the courts are going to do. That was actually one of the parts that came up in this presentation. You see what I'm saying? Which is why people don't report, because we know what the courts are going to do based off of how the laws are made.
By all means, if you feel like he committed a crime, report it.
Report him, exactly.
No,
but the problem is people are gaslighting,
and they will need some evidence to show that there's a victim.
Yeah, but the problem is people are gaslighting people for reporting. That's the problem. That the issue is we need to start reporting, regardless of what the outcome might be. We need to report in our community.
Not necessarily this case, but you're just saying in general?
Yes. Okay. Not just in this case. I'm not talking about with just him. But people are being gaslit for reporting him for predatory behavior.
What I want to say is that Deacon Young, talking about I believe D. Darrell, you said that only 10% of black boys get sexually assaulted or something like that.
No, I said 25% of 10% of males, 90% are women. But when you look at it as far as males, 25% of that total 10% is boys that are under the age of 10.
Okay, I believe the number is much higher than that. As
It
of
could
right
be.
now,
Mhm.
and I just want to say, as of right now, my family. Now it's different when you report YouTube news, and then when your family's a part of the real life news. Okay, my family going through it with Michigan State University right now. I ain't made a video about it because they don't really want me to talk about it. But my family going through with Michigan State University right now because it's a big thing with Michigan State University. Actually, the dollar figure's already been set. People just waiting on the money. But it's a big thing because a couple of my uncles went there. They play basketball, So they had this man that was sexually assaulting the sports players, So he was basketball players, football players, all type of. And I'm talking about we got emails from the lawyer and stuff. He talking about how it's people that's higher up that didn't want this to come to light and everything. Like, you know what I'm saying? Now the lawsuit predates the statute of limitation. It go past that. So it was this one case with these women where they voted to lift the statute of limitations. That's how they got their money. They were supposed to do that the same thing with this situation, but they didn't. They settled on a big dollar amount. So, but it's a lot of black men that don't report what be going on to them. And these people, they coming out in droves right now, or they been came out, you know what I'm saying? But you know what I'm saying, they come out in droves, and this been going back since slavery.
Right.
Facts, you know what I'm saying? And we don't want to admit it, but it's the truth. And I believe you. I believe you with Deacon Young too. Yeah, the number much higher than that. 10%, man, you gotta be correct. I'm not saying you, D Real, but I'm saying, the number much higher than that. And it's a big problem with sexual abusers in real life. This is real life, for real, for real.
Right. Yeah, I mean, because our statistics have flaws. Even the statistics that I quoted, nothing is edged in stone. All statistical data has limitations and it has a standard error. That's something that I talk about a lot in other sectors when they always quote statistics to meet that narrative. They don't look at things, the total aspect of the research, how it was collected, how the data was assessed and organized. You just can't go along on raw numbers, but it does basically paint the picture that we have a problem in our community. We're allowing a lot of sexual predators to run rampant and not be held accountable. That's a fact.
Fact.
And that's something that needs to be dealt with, like seriously. I think we all can agree on that.
Yep.
Yeah.
So, well, I mean, my thing was that I hope that is there an area that y'all think I could have talked about that I didn't? Is something you think you would have liked to know more about, or something? Just kind of give me some feedback on, if there's something else you would have wanted to know or what have you.
I would have liked to hear about the conviction rates and what Pillsbury brought up, the male victims, a little bit more in that. I'm pretty sure you could get around to it, but
The reason why I didn't, I spoke on the males a little bit, but the reason why I didn't go into the male stuff a whole lot is because disproportionately it's going to be women. Not to saying I'm discrediting or anything on guys, but the fact that I wanted to also make it relative to the topic at hand of why I did this in the first place. So I wanted to give statistics that I kind of put in a little male stuff just to kind of make it, to try to let it know that it just wasn't too tilted towards just speaking of females being victimized. But there were statistics that I did see. I just I didn't post it. But the next time I may tackle this topic again, I may give more rise to that. Anybody else?
Man, I think it's a bunch of areas that you can tackle that you probably didn't bring up that I can't really think of right now. But this was a good live right here. So you know what I'm saying. I just want to say salute D Real, everybody on the panel, Oracle, T Pre, Mikey. Mikey, that's my dog. You know what I'm saying? He the one I bring around when I want to feel like a scholar. Hey, I'm gonna salute y'all, man. I'm gonna see y'all later, man. I'm out here.
Salute.
There
It was
goes
great.
Gary. Darrell, I thought the show was excellent. I really do. I appreciate all the points you brought up, and I'm really glad that we were able to talk because I think there was some misunderstanding between you and me at least, and now
Okay.
we have more. We understand that we're more on the same page than not with this topic. You see what I'm
Yeah.
saying?
Right.
And also definitely I have a much more objective perspective of this than I think you thought I did. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I appreciate having this discussion, and that's how people come to an understanding is talking to each other. You see what I'm saying? And we were able to talk, and there was no argument or anything. And I always support you, and I appreciate you supporting me.
Yeah, I'm glad. I was looking forward to your, like, whether you came in or not. I was definitely looking forward to your, if you watched the replay or whatever. But I was hoping that you would give a response, whether it was a 5-10 minute video response or if you would come in. So I was definitely looking forward to you giving a because I value your opinion. So I was definitely looking forward to seeing what you thought, good or bad or indifferent. So
Thank
I
you,
definitely
Darrell.
was awaiting your position on things. And my thing is this, man. With the legal system, some changes need to be made in regards to this. I really think, and I'm gonna say this. I'm gonna throw this out here. What do you think about the state, or let's say family members, forcing the victims to express what happened, whether they want to or not? It's mandatory. Mandatory. If something happened to you, it's mandatory for you to tell.
That's difficult to do.
I know.
And you have, well, I was going to say that would be difficult to do when you have a rape culture environment. You understand what I'm saying? So
Right.
the environment itself will need to change. People will need to change their perspective. We will need to police our own communities in these types of things. We will need to be more vigilant. We will need to have more people that are not willing to put their heads in the sand over situations like this. And then, in cases like that, we wouldn't have to involve the courts and the law and so forth, because we are policing our own communities. You understand what I'm saying? And not allowing such things, not arguing and gaslighting with one another, over reporting. You understand what I'm saying? And stuff like that. That is going to make changes. That's what's going to create those changes. I mean, obviously, we're going to have to use the law. We're going to have to use the courts in some of this. But I think when it comes to knowing the fact that these laws are in place, and it does seem that a lot of these laws protect predators in a sense, okay, then in that case, we're going to have to do our own policing. We're going to have to do something about that in our own communities. And it starts in our own home.
Yeah, I agree with that, because to me, a lot of this not reporting to the police is really stuff that's happening in homes, in immediate families, where you got fathers doing things, brothers, sisters, cousins, aunts, uncles, to kids, and so forth. That's the bulk of it. That I think, if this happens, man, I think not telling, that should be criminal punishments going down to everybody that didn't report. Because to me, we're just allowing criminals to run rampant.
But when people are telling, Darrell, when people are coming forward and telling on their victims, on their predator, or on their abuser, they're getting this type of pushback. You understand what I'm saying?
But see, I'm not concerned. I'm not concerned about. I know the family. I'm talking about the law. Forget the fact that whoever pushing back. I'm
The
talking
law
about
is pushing
contact
back
to
on.
the law.
Okay, well, the
To
law is
investigate.
pushing back on victims. Let me give you an example. I'm gonna give you one prime example. Okay, in Philadelphia, there used to be this. This group within the Philadelphia Police Department. Okay, it was called the Ain't Shit Bitches group or some shit like that. Okay, where they
What?
basically, yes, listen, this was a group of investigators in the Philadelphia Police Department for over 20 years. They were hiding all these Black women and Hispanic women who had reported that they had been raped or they had been molested or something like that. They were hiding that information. They literally did not prosecute any. This was in the news. You guys can look this information up. This is not anything I'm making up. Okay. I forgot what it was called. The ain't shit bitches. They called themselves the not shit bitches or bitches ain't shit group, or it was something like that. But they were within the Philadelphia Police Department, and they were the investigative unit for the rape victims. Okay. And they were hiding specific cases. It was thousands upon thousands of victims that had come forward. Okay. Actually reported this, and they had hid it. They never went back. They never tried to look into it. They never investigated it. They never prosecuted anyone. So that's a real thing. So when you talk about putting criminal charges on people who are not reporting, the problem is some people are reporting, okay? And there is nothing being done. Or like you said, it's hard to prove such a thing, okay? So therefore, nothing is being done. So people are less reluctant to report, okay? Because they know they're going to get so much pushback, because they know people are not going to believe them. So you can't put criminal charges on people for that. You got to clean up the environment. The problem is the rape culture. That's the problem.
Okay. All right. What's up, Tiff?
Hey, D.
Hey,
Hey,
what's
T.
up?
Free. How you doing? Child. Okay, I'm late. I don't even know what y'all been talking about. I didn't even know D was still live. I was watching briefly the slaughter on another channel and just catching up on shit. The
Yeah,
sector
I
been
gotta go over
popping, so I
there
don't
real quick.
even.
I'll be over there.
Oh my
I'll be over there.
God, girl,
I
just
know
catch
what's
the
going down.
replay.
I'll be over there.
I was getting secondhand anxiety. I can't do it.
Honey.
Yeah, that shit is crazy. What y'all been talking about? Like, I'm so late.
So
D,
I
I
gave
thought you
You are
wrapped it
very
up.
late.
I gave a presentation on the pathology of sexual deviant behavior.
See, I caught that part. I didn't realize you were still live.
Yeah. So I presented on that, and then I allowed those that wanted to critique or give their input. They came up to discuss it. So that's kind of where we're at now. So
I see that's Mikey. I don't know. That's Mikey, right?
Yeah.
Who was the other person? They dropped off.
oh, that was Pillsbury.
Oh, okay.
Pillsbury and
Yeah.
Oracle.
Oh, okay. Yes. I got my life. Oracle came through. I watched her the other night on Dee's channel. She dropped some knowledge, some gems. I wouldn't even call that a read. That was just facts of life. I love what she said. Like, hell, go fucking join the military. You know what I mean? Be productive. The fuck. Yeah, I really appreciated her commentary on that, because that was some real shit.
Right.
But yeah. So T Pre, did you? I'm sorry, and I'm late. Did you agree with Dee's analysis, or not analysis, but his presentation?
I think D and I are on the 100% on the same page in regards to his analysis.
Okay. Okay. Well, D, I'm glad you came through and got it done. I know it's been, some stressful few days.
Yeah, to do this, I had to I mean, like I was saying, I did rush it a little bit because I am stressed for time right now because I'm working on some other things. But I made it a point, I actually forced myself to do it this morning, to go ahead and get it out the way. and so I could do some other different things that I had planned and go live tonight to discuss it. But if I didn't do it today, I probably was gonna have to wait till like Wednesday or Thursday of next week, and I didn't want to do that. So, but what I wanted to do was just in some way give a summary of things, and I wanted to touch on some key statistics that I think that if people were not aware of, it was striking in regards to, you know, sexual predators, and as far as the national statistics versus the statistics in our own community and so on. So, and that was really my biggest point. And to me, like I was saying, I'm not here to sway anybody's mind in regards to that particular person in our sector. But what I wanted to do was give more context based on the information that I presented.
Yeah. No, that's cool. And a lot of people, were seeking that. So that's
Listen,
cool.
I love y'all. I gotta go because the slaughter is going down. Okay,
Girl.
I'm gonna holler at you.
Yeah.
Who's being slaughtered?
I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. I'm just playing. I'm just kidding, y'all. But I'm gonna go over there to the other channel, y'all. So I'm gonna talk to y'all later. Thank you for having me on the show.
Hold a second down, T-Free. Hold a second down. We're looking bad.
I'm gonna go right on over there and have a good time like everybody else.
We down bad.
I ain't over there. No verses over there. I enjoy everybody.
Yeah, Saul got us looking crazy as fuck. We down bad. Good luck. We down bad.
All right, y'all. Thanks for having me, D. It's always a pleasure.
All right, peace.
All right, T-Free.
All right, y'all.
Oh, that's right. Conscious TV, he doing this thing tonight, huh?
Yeah, no. So yeah, he actually invited you like at the beginning of the live.
Yeah, I wasn't coming. I'm actually not. I'm as far as my interaction with him, I'm glad that we were able to kind of come to an understanding. But right now, I don't want to get on anybody's panel in regards to that because it could be triggering to certain people per se.
Yeah.
And I'm not putting myself in that position anytime soon.
So let me
No.
Yeah, go ahead, brother.
Yeah, no. How would you take his story as what I took it as? I mean, like I said, I take it as with a grain of salt. You know what I mean?
You mean that person's story?
What do you mean, Mikey? What do you take with a grain of salt? What do you mean?
I take it as like, he told his little war story, whatever is the case may be. And
who are you talking about?
No.
You talking about Binary?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, he could. Yeah, ain't nobody. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? I take it as a grade, with the salt type stuff. You know what I mean? I put my emotions to the side, and you know what I mean?
No, I do. My thing, and I did watch.
Because at the end of the day, if you feel like that, bring the 3 women up. You know what I mean? If they're around.
But we do understand this is YouTube, right? And
yeah,
I think we kind of lose sight of it.
Yeah. Yeah. And so Darrell, like I appreciate
things.
you.
Yeah, I think we need to put things into go ahead.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. Put things into perspective, right? Into real life, context. So yes, I appreciate you, bringing like the clinical health analysis part of it. To me, I'm not a mental health professional, so I can't even go that deep. What catches my attention and my ears are buzzwords. When you start calling people predators and, comparing them or insinuating they're child molesters and things like that, the legal bills start ringing. Like, fuck all that other shit y'all talking about.
And then on top of that, how would you think his wife feels?
See,
people,
Mikey, to be honest, and I appreciate you saying that. My mind doesn't even go that far. Like I'm thinking about somebody suing the fuck out of me. You know what I mean?
That I know, but how would you feel his wife would have been like, hey, how you saying this about my husband? You know what I mean? And you don't know him.
I can't even make it that far.
Because some people will make it that far. Some people
No, I feel you. No, I shut down at the legal side of it. Like,
what
I
mean?
can't go any further. I can't just get online. You think I can hop up here and call you a child M? Or you think I
Yeah.
can do that?
Yeah,
Can't.
yeah.
Get the
I
fuck
can't
out of
even do
here. That's
that.
crazy.
I can't do that either.
No, so I stopped there. Like, I can't go any further than that.
You know what I mean? Because
I really
some
can't get.
wives and even kids too. How you gonna say that about my pops?
I
You
feel
know
what
what I
you're
mean? It could be a whole bunch
saying.
of stuff. You know what I mean?
Are you? Yeah, I feel what you're
That
saying.
could open a
Like,
whole can
family
of
may want to
worms.
reach out and touch you and all
You know
kinds of other stuff. Yeah.
that shit.
No.
Could open a whole can of worms to the point you be like, yo, what? You know?
I guess I don't think that far, because of
Right.
other
No,
things
facts.
I have going on. But, I think about like the front end of it. Because at the end of the day, the man is an educator. He's a doctor. He has resources. It's real problematic to get online and start assigning labels to him. It's problematic for him. Now, if you can, prove that he's all those things, then, fine. But if not, that ain't it. But to each their own, who cares,
Well, the sector they were pretty much saying, hey, we're not the court, so we can just draw our own position.
I know that, but what if his wife comes in and says, hey,
it would be advantageous of her not to do that.
You know what I mean? What are y'all people talking about? You know
Yeah,
what I mean?
but it would be
Who are you?
It would be,
you know what I mean?
her advantage not to do that.
No, that I know, but at the end of the day,
if she did,
she could be like, who are you? You ain't nobody.
No, she need to have that conversation with her husband first. Her
That
is online.
That too. But hey,
I mean,
she could be like, hey, that's
it would. I'm gonna tell you this. It would make for good YouTube content, but it would make binary look bad if she did that.
No, but at the same time, she could say, hey, mind your business.
Yeah, but it's still gonna make him look bad.
How you gonna get online and tell another female to mind her business when her husband online putting his business out there?
Yeah,
she would I'd be like, ma'am, here's your sound suit. Go sit the fuck down. The fuck?
It would make
Why
him look. It would make him look bad. So if she,
talk to your husband.
I mean, like who? Okay, that too. But like, who didn't put their business out there too on YouTube?
You said who?
Like, who didn't put their business out here on YouTube?
I don't put my business out on YouTube.
You said who?
Yeah.
Maybe business, but not personal.
No, binary put his business out there. So, and now he's getting a response.
That's because people was fishing for a story.
No, people weren't pushing for a story. There were people that he did things to and had adverse interactions with that were looking at a means of getting back at him.
That's fishing for a story.
I'm gonna be very honest with you. When Binary did that live, I didn't see it. I know there were other people who saw who were in that live, and it kind of rode. Some people immediately recognized it as problematic, but they let it ride. And then months later, Binary brought it up himself, and he brought attention to JJ's page. Like, I didn't know nothing about the shit until he said something.
Right.
JJ never advertised his videos or his page or any shit like that. So, I mean, either way, it's really a non-issue, kind of.
Yeah.
I mean, this whole thing about, the statute of limitations is done. I mean, if you want,
it's been over.
I'm like, listen, if you want to think of him in whatever way you want to, you're not. Hey, that's on you. I'm
that's
at the
your
point
business.
where I'm not telling nobody what to think. So what I basically did was trying to give people an understanding of the difference between a sex offender and a sexual predator. And so on.
I appreciated that, how you approach it from a clinical standpoint, just generally speaking.
Yeah, I'm not assessing, and that's another thing I want people to understand. I wasn't assessing binary. I was speaking in generalities.
In general, just in general.
Yeah. You know, now what I did was I pointed out certain illnesses that would be in general to that, and I pointed out one in specific. And even if I did, I mean, I'm just looking at the fact that the criteria just doesn't fit. Even if I were to engage in that, it wouldn't. And I just wanted to let people understand, we gotta take the emotion out of this, and not, because the people who are complaining the most are the people that don't like them. Let's just keep it above. And I get that with the sector. And I'm saying you have a right to form whatever opinion that you want to. And I just wanted to give information. You could take it. People now, they wanted me to. Certain people didn't, that I thought were going to come up, didn't come up, or they felt like they should have just spoken about stuff. Which no, I'm like, I gotta let everybody else speak. But I mean, if you didn't like it, hey, you didn't like it. What you want me to do? I'm not going to redo anything. Like, I mean,
I appreciated the information.
Huh?
I appreciated like the information you presented, just like as an FYI. But I will just say, like on a boilerplate standpoint, we have to be mindful of what, I don't care how we feel. You're allowed to your personal opinions. You can think all these things, whatever. But you got to be real mindful when you start publicly putting labels on people and saying things. A lot of these words are like legal buzz terms.
Yeah.
They so I would stay away from that. That's all I care about, honestly.
Even if I felt binary had certain things or certain whatever, I couldn't even say it. Even if I thought it, I couldn't even say it. So that's
the thing.
Yeah, my verbiage is going to be in. Like I told the ladies earlier when I talked to T Pre and Oracle, I'm speaking in a manner that I understand that I have to protect myself. I'm not being
and you have to. No, you have to CYA, cover your ass. And I'm gonna tell you, a lot of people, maybe people don't click. I guess they don't care. I don't know, whatever. But and binary can take this however he want to take it. I can dig it, whatever. Binary is a type of person. He like the mind fuck. He like intellectual games. He like testing people's intellectualism. He likes setting traps. That is his shit. This is like the nigga's a whole goddamn doctor.
Right.
Get the fuck out of here. This is play fun for him. Like he's getting a kick out of it.
Yeah.
That's what people
like,
missing. So he's gonna let y'all talk fucking dumb and say all
Yeah.
kinds of crazy shit and get his whole fucking life when he sue your ass. Like
yo, that's what I said too. Like, okay, that's what I mean. But that's what I mean about fishing for a story. You go fishing for a story.
Not fishing for a story.
Yes, it is.
Fishing.
Yes, it is.
Mikey, how's that fishing for a story?
Basically, you're looking for something to stick.
That's more than a story.
You know what I mean?
That's more than that's a people. People play. How some people like to play poker, like to play chess. Some people like to play mind games and fuck with you.
Right.
Like people keep crying, like, oh, why he won't, unprivate a video for what? I'm gonna let y'all dumb niggas keep talking. Okay. That's what I'm gonna do. And let you keep burying yourself. And then I'm gonna show you it. Like that's fun to him. And anybody that can't see that, like, I guess maybe I'm tripping.
Because my thing is he had no reason to do that interview with Conscious TV against that other person. And that just opened up the whole can of worms.
Oh, I know he keep that exact. Why can't people see that? He keeps poking at. That's the thing. In fact, he brought attention again to the JJ shit.
Right.
Won't nobody even checking for that shit. He's letting people play themselves. That's fun to him. Like he's in my opinion, a very cerebral person. He likes to, see where people are intellectually. He gets a kick out of that.
Right.
It's hard to explain, and I'm
I
not.
get it. He likes to play. He loves intellectual
He does.
games, gymnastics. He loves that
He
level of
does.
gymnastics.
I mean,
For
like,
me,
He
I don't have
loves.
who
time for all
doesn't?
that. I don't
Who
have time
doesn't?
for that on YouTube.
I mean,
But
sometimes it could be cool, you know. Test
yeah, not for
people's
me.
test.
I'm
You
trying to
could
get
test.
this is a break away from things for me. I ain't trying to do
Yeah,
it.
yeah. But you
But
could
I get it.
but
I
you
get
could
it.
test you could test people's brains and all that. How you know how they think and all that.
Yeah,
That's
but
his
he
shit. He likes to
like
test
You know what I
people.
mean?
like when he did the research stuff. That research was basically
Mm-hmm.
that research.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I get it. I mean, so I got it out the way. I'm expecting some people will be saying some things about it, what I stated, not happy, whatever, but it is what it is. There were certain people, I invited them to come up if they wanted to say what they wanted to say. I mean, I was fine. It didn't matter to me one way or the other. Like if you liked it, hated it, or felt this, I posted. They wanted to see the receipts of where I cited the information. I gave them that at the end. I mean, you had literally people telling me while I'm trying to do the presentation to pull up this video, show the info. I'm like, damn, let me do the presentation. Be patient. Like shit. Not that serious.
The whole thing is just interesting. You know,
Yeah.
I tend to mind the business that pay me. I'm not gonna
Right.
hop up here and call anyone predators, child, none of that. Sexual batterer, assaulter, all
No,
that shit.
facts.
Those are
Facts to
very
that.
specific crimes that have very specific elements. That yeah, I ain't. Mm-mm,
And you know, like I said,
mm-mm.
you know, if they feel like that, where the three women at? You gotta pull them up.
Or
You know what I
not.
mean?
I mean, and again, you're entitled to feel and think however you want to feel and think,
Exactly.
but you have to be mindful about what you say in a public space. See, I think what people are missing about binary, this Negro is really when that nigga say he got a team and shit like that, like this a nigga that's like gonna be a mayor of some shit. That's the thing.
It's crazy.
Like you gotta be mindful of who you're engaging with. I always say that about I know D, like you hate when I say it or anybody. Like an anti-Afro, you gotta be mindful who you engaging with. You don't never know who you fucking with.
Okay,
That's the thing.
that's true. So what if, let's say, you know, a person comes on and just say his story, but it's on paper, and you can look it up. How would you feel about that person?
What do you mean if they said their story and I look it up on paper? What does that mean? What do you mean? Be
Like,
more.
let's say they tell their story on YouTube. I did this crime, you know,
Uh-huh.
whatever. Take it how you feel.
Yeah.
You could look it up. It's on paper.
Uh-huh.
You know what I mean? Just take it how you feel, and
Mm-hmm.
whatever's the case may be.
Mm-hmm.
But they try to
I
do
feel
the
you.
same thing as, you know, with binary. You know what I mean? How would you feel about that?
I'm gonna mind my motherfucking business. And if the man does not have a conviction as being, you know, a sexual predator or someone who has committed battery or sexual assault or aggravated
No, I
assault.
mean, like a crime, like you know, he killed somebody, whatever's the case may be,
Oh.
and he's telling it. You know what I mean?
And he's been charged
Yeah,
and
and you know, all that. And you know, he's good. You know, he's a changed person, whatever's the case may be. And he's telling his story. How would you take it?
I thank you for that question, Mikey. That's a great question. I would stay away from putting labels on that person you're describing because they've been charged, they've been tried, they've been convicted, they served their time. Once you served your time, that you know you're restored into society. So to still refer to that person as whatever that label is, you out of pocket. You got to be really precise with your language. So yeah, I would stay away from that. You know, like say if somebody, you know, was like they murdered someone, they got, you know, charged, convicted, served their time. You know, would it be it would be appropriate to refer to them as a convicted murderer. Would I call them a murderer? You know, you got to be careful.
Yeah, you do.
I mean,
You can't be throwing stuff around.
you cannot, or you can.
Well, you can, but whatever
Yeah,
consequences
but
have
but
to happen.
but you got to be
Yeah, because
mindful of
it's
who
on
you
paper.
dealing
You,
with.
you know what I mean? It's on paper. He's telling his story, whatever the case may be. But then some people want to take it upon their hands and maybe try to twist the story, and you know what I mean?
Yeah, no, when you do stuff like that, you do it, at your own risk. Again, I'm out of business to fucking pay me. Okay.
Mhm.
And that's, you know, to me, that's weird, but,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, and again, I'll go back to a binary situation. There were only a handful of people that heard that whole live.
Yep, I was one.
But
I heard that. I was there when he did. I
you
heard that
know,
in the original.
and most people are just hearing chopped and screwed versions.
Right.
So, in my personal opinion, and I'll just leave it at my personal opinion, you will be an absolute fucking clown to jump out of the window and make any type of absolute determination, and especially going as far as putting labels on people without hearing the whole fucking story. That's why, and that's what be killing me with binary. He be sitting back laughing at us like, look at these dumbass niggas. That's what everybody be missing. He be like, these niggas are dumb as fuck, and it proves it out. Our emotionalism sometimes trumps our intellectualism, and that's unfortunate.
That is true.
We emotional as fuck. We don't, but fine. Again, people do what they want to do. Some people want that type of controversy, that type of smoke. Some people don't mind getting fucking sued. They want to be in court. All that shit. Shout out to them. That shit is dumb.
What's up, Chaos Rain? What's up, brother?
That's good. That's good. I know you read the list of pathology of sexual deviance. Is this something from yesterday's discussion from Teapot that you had it? Okay,
No.
that's my picture.
No.
Okay.
This is another sector.
Cause didn't you cover this on my channel like a year and a half ago?
Yeah, I did. I did an interview with you about sexual deviancy, but I also I created a video on paraphilic behavior about in last October.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I did something else. I think I did one on Glendon Camden when he said I actually played that video. I actually played that video in the initial phases of the beginning of the live stream.
I covered Glendon Cameron, and to be honest with you, that gave me a lot of views. And it was not like portray him, but just the thought of the title of the sexual deviance. What he did, people did took a lot of advantage of talking his very sick, deprived mentality, but it lets you know that Caucasian women, especially, they don't mind serving their daughters to bucks, especially once they got money. They get them in early, which is not surprising, but it kind of really adds on to their pathology, So with Glendon at that time, of course, it's going to be a frail because think about it. He's taking advantage of other women that's not part of our community just for his lust. You get me? Even to the point where he said that he's not going to even attempt to take on no younger girl that's like probably under 20 because if he sees them with their father, he knows what's going to happen, So it tells you the importance of a man somewhat involved enough, that it cuts out all that sexual deviance.
Predatory.
Yeah, very predatory. And predators only seek those that don't have no actual protector. Because I know there's going to be the risk of death, But not just a certain, there is going to be risk of death. See, men are very smart. They only going to sink their teeth into something that looks weak and frail and no one's around. But when someone's present, oh no, they back away. They scare like roaches. So, like I said, and
Cash Rain, what if you have a father that calls himself putting you on to game? that has a daughter and raises his daughter and teaches her, and for example, say, as a little girl, as long as you have a pussy, you should never be broke or hungry. There are fathers like that, correct?
To be honest with you, if I'm finding any
crazy.
daughter, if I find any woman that and the father tells him that per se, he has failed, in my opinion. Because now you're advocating
failed or not. I was just bringing that up to kind of get rid of your generalization that a woman out here operating like that is evidence of her not having a proper, father figure in her life or being raised by her dad. I'm just saying.
You mean for protection? That's what you're saying?
No, I'm going back to your original assertion. A woman that speaks and operates that way does not have a father. That's basically what you said.
That said that if he had, like, from the question, you're saying that if he teaches her that if you have a coochie, that you should not be broke?
No. I threw that in. To rebut your assertion that a woman who operates in that fashion does not have a father or a father figure around. And I threw that in to say, hell, there are women that have been raised by their fathers who were taught something alternative, along with what I stated. That debunks your no father theory.
I appreciate the panel. D. I'm gonna drop down for a second.
All right, brother.
All right.
So, in other words, you're saying that a father's presence, regardless, is not really important. Is that you're trying to state?
No, that's what
What
you
she's
said.
saying is it all depends on the efficacy of the father.
Well, I will say this: not every man is made.
That a woman without a father would express the sentiments that you just stated.
Well, my thing is this: if we're talking about this community and there's no fathers, right? They stay or go. It's very reflecting. That's all I'm gonna say. So, but we're not gonna go back and forth about it.
I never will.
Deidre, but
everybody request. I'm getting these emails and texts. They trying to get me to go over there with Conscious TV, but I'm not going up there. I'm not going.
It's a slaughter fest. Go save Star. We down bad. Please go save Star. That's what I didn't even know you were still alive. Thank God you laughed.
All right, I'm gonna go ahead and end this live, but I'm gonna be very limited. But I'm not going to discuss anything in regard to that other person. That's off limits.
Oh, come on, D-Bro. You go in the live just you about panel pop?
You ain't talking about shit, sir. Goodbye.
Yeah, everybody want me to talk about it. They all trying to get me to go over there, but I'm only going to talk about things relative to that. So, Chaos, I'm gonna go ahead and get out of here, brother. Any last words?
I want to say some shortly, but you can end the stream. Thank you, everybody.
All right, brother. All right, guys. I'm gonna go over there to CTV for a second. I'm gonna tap in, but that's basically it. So y'all have a great evening. Peace.